Hello there. We are Group 11, and we examined the relationship between employee satisfaction and age in college students this semester. When pondering what the scope and focus of our research should be, we had two questions that directed us most. First, we wanted our research to apply to college students, and most importantly, we wanted to know how we could make our research feel important to us as college students. After debating and changing our topic a couple of times, we realized that something that was a recurring theme among us was the balance between work and school as college students. We figured that what better way to get a feel for college students overall than to research the link between workplace or employee satisfaction and the age of students. Our hypothesis was that there will be less workplace satisfaction among younger students and greater workplace satisfaction among older students. Our thinking was that as students progress in their degrees and programs, they would be more likely to hold jobs that related to their future careers. At first, we weren't sure how to stratify or separate ages. Was it better to keep age as a numerical value or stratify by class level? Ultimately, we decided that in order to best represent our data, we would keep the age of our participants as the numerical values they submitted. We also wanted to account for students of all ages and not just traditional students. When delving into our literature review, we definitely found a gap. In other words, we found that studies had been conducted that examined the link between workplace or employee satisfaction, but none of the research articles that we found looked at this relationship specifically in college students. And we know as well as any other student that this is a unique relationship, having to both work and go to school at the same time.
The participants we chose were college students from 3 different university institutions, the first one being Idaho State University, Northwestern, Nazarene University, and Boise State University. We expected to recruit at least 40 students from ISU, 20 students from Northwest Nazarene University, and 20 students from Boise State University. For our sample, we expected to be roughly 50% male and 50% female, and overall 80% white. But we wanted to note that ethnicity will most likely not play a major role in job satisfaction. As for the materials we used, we wanted to distribute an electronic version of our survey through classes in order to recruit as many students as possible who are interested in participating, but without compensation. And one of the measures we'll be using is called the generic job satisfaction scale, which will be used to help determine the level of job satisfaction. We decided to use the Likert scale, meaning it will be from a 5-point from strongly disagree to strongly agree as well. And how we decided to total the scores, we decided to separate them into categories by using very dissatisfied, which means from 10 to 15, dissatisfied from 16 to 25, indifferent 16 to 35, satisfied 36 to 45, and finally very satisfied to 46 and 50. And for our second measure, we'll probably ask more demographic questions within the survey to gather more information about the participants, such as age, ethnicity, sex, and their current jobs. And finally, the procedures will be students from these institutions will be randomly selected in order to complete our online survey. The survey will also be used on Google Forms, and whoever wants to participate in it will have access to the QR code or a link. And after completion of the consent forms, participants will fill out the survey with their demographic questions, as we would like to note that the participants will remain anonymous.
As previously stated by my group members, the question we were asking is, how does age of college students impact or affect workplace satisfaction? With our hypothesis being, will there be less workplace satisfaction among younger college students, and will there be greater workplace satisfaction among older college students? So after completing our survey and cleaning the data, we decided to run a Pearson's R correlation. The original hypothesis was that as age increases, so would job satisfaction. Unfortunately, this was not correct. Our results show that as age increases, job satisfaction actually decreases. So the variables of age and job satisfaction have a slight negative correlation, with Pearson's R being negative 0.197 and the p-value 0.132.
When looking at the results of our experiment, some interesting conclusions can be drawn. By compiling the scores from each of the 13 questions for an overall satisfaction score, we were able to compare job satisfaction against the age of college students. While we were expecting to find correlation between age and workplace satisfaction, our results showed that there was no significant relationship. These findings do not coincide with the findings found by Scott McDonald and Peter McIntyre, the individuals who designed the generic job satisfaction scale. When designing this scale, they found that job satisfaction had no difference when it came to race, job type, or sex, but that age did play a significant factor. With the results from our experiment and theirs having completely different answers, it does raise some interesting questions. For example, why do they disagree? Is it the simple fact that we were only testing college students and this alone is the reason why? Or are there other factors that were not considered when we were making this experiment? For example, we only tested students in the southern Idaho geographic region. This could make it so that we have a very small mental mindset, whereas if we had been able to get people from like Southern California, New Mexico, or even New York, this could have really been able to help us have a wider demographic and a better understanding of why the difference is there. To account for these differences, additional studies would need to be done that had larger population size as well as diversity among its participants than we were able to accomplish to be able to rule these potential factors out as the reason why we found that there was no significant correlation between age and job satisfaction among college students.